Midwest emo. Wikipedia says Midwest emo or Midwestern emo, which I don't say that. I'm not a freaking square. Is a subgenre and scene of emo music that emerged in the... Okay. It's like twinkly, soft, clean guitar parts, and there's some dude screaming about his girlfriend that he cheated on, and he's like sorry about or something. The scene that I grew up in back home was sort of Midwest emo tinged, and the first time I saw other bands that were like shredding on guitar, but was like very clean and beautiful with it, and I really liked that. And that whole style of music, obviously, if you know who I am, really influenced how I play guitar. All right, on the other hand, we have breakcore. Wikipedia says breakcore is a style of electronic dance music that emerged from jungle, hardcore, and drum and bass. Okay, to me, breakcore is just really fast, distorted drum chops, and then it's usually like very atmospheric pads over top of it. It has a sort of like retro vintage sound that I really dig, and as I got older, I realized all the PlayStation games I played growing up had a lot of breakcore, or at least like jungle-y drum and bass break aesthetics in it. I think my guitar style is way more math rock, even though I'm not in the math rock scene. The drum parts honestly are not very breakcore either, and I usually get some like jungle-y loop to begin with. And I ended up putting out a whole mixtape of music like this, actually, with this jungle, math rock, Midwest pop, hyper pop sort of sound. So as my last hurrah of this sort of sound that I feel like I helped cultivate and really make my own, I figured I'd make a video on exactly how I produce it. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe, and come see me on tour. So I'm gonna start by like going through a bunch of cool drum breaks. I'm gonna type in jungle or drum and bass on Splice. And my main goal, honestly, is to find a cool sound tone of the drums, not so much the actual rhythm, because you're gonna end up chopping the rhythms and making it your own anyway. So it's really like the tone of the sounds in it. So I'm gonna start with this loop. Kind of like crunchy. That kick drum's pretty distorted. I'm gonna filter it out a little bit and just add a tiny little amount of chops on there. I do think a big part of my sound is that I'm a drummer, and I'm like thinking of cool rhythms that I would play on an actual drum set, and then I try to chop and edit the breaks in rhythms that I would play live or that I just think sound sick. Not saying I can play that, but I can play it in my brain, you know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of different ways you can chop up your drum breaks, and I'm gonna give you 4 different ideas to kind of help you get started. The first way is simply just cutting the audio and duplicating it a bunch, and you'll get this sort of like glitchy chop sound. So here's the normal break. I'm gonna take this snare drum at the end, and I'm going to chop it into this little piece. If I play it twice, I get 2 fast hits. Or I can do it 4 times and I get 4 fast hits. Or you could do 8. You could do even more than that if you want to. You could do 100 billion trillion and it would sound like this. Okay, we're gonna stick to just the 4. And I'm gonna end up adding a couple chops here and there in the middle just to give it a little bit more of a groove. I'm mostly focusing on like drum fill type stuff that happens more at the end of the phrase and maybe in the middle of the loop itself. Another pretty simple idea is to just create another track with different time-based effects on it, and then one by one you can sort of throw samples in there one at a time. So I just made this track that has a bunch of delay on it, really quick 30-second note delay. And so whenever I want, I can just throw some sort of drum in there and it'll just make that effect. I could even take that a step further and print the slapback delay and then reverse it into itself. The third pretty easy effect you can do is just pitch some of the drums up as you do the glitch fill. So I'm going to duplicate the snare, pitch it up, duplicate, pitch it up, duplicate, pitch it up. And then number 4, another easy one again, is you can just create another track to put effects on it. And then anytime you want, you just move some of the samples onto that track that you want to be affected. So here for my track, I added a sort of like telephone filter on it. And so now I can just throw up whatever samples I want in there and it'll sound affected. Pretty simple. So for a lot of times, these jungle breaks are not gonna have that much low end or really like punch to them. It's just more of a groove to keep the vibe going. But if you hear this in like a club or a big sound system, it's not like really gonna hit, you know what I'm saying? So most of the time I'll add an actual like fat kick and snare on top of the jungle break. So here's my kick drum by itself. And I'm just gonna layer that under the drum break. I take the kick out, bring it back in. Really gives you that thud that you really want from an actual dance pop track. I'm gonna go ahead and add a bunch of other percussion on top of it to give it a little bit more of a brighter sound with the kick drum, and then back in adding the original break. Without all those other little elements in it, it just doesn't sound as like big and fat and polished. Putting them back in. Okay, on to the guitar part. So for this Midwest emo sound, of course the easiest thing is to be in an open tuning rather than like standard. Or if you don't play guitar, you can just use my samples on my Patreon. You can grab them now. Tuning that I use is D, A, F sharp, C sharp, A, E. And I also really like putting a capo on the guitar just because it makes it sound a little different and maybe inspires you in a different way. So I'm gonna go capo 6 for this one. Everyone always is wondering about my guitar tone, and it's literally just OTT. I have my Ibanez Geo. I'm using my split coil neck position. I have a bunch of compression, and I have 29% OTT, and that's literally it. That's my guitar tone. When you're trying to come up with a riff, I think the most important thing is to think of a chord progression first, or you can just think of a simple bass line. For me, I'm thinking about that before I'm even picking up the instrument. I think when people ask about my tone, they're forgetting that it's actually just two separate guitar parts playing harmonized riffs. So here's the first one by itself. And then here's the harmony guitar. Put them together, pan left and right. Add your drums. Conceptually, it's really not that difficult. It's just harmonizing every single note, which in itself is like a simple idea. It just takes the time of figuring out what the harmony of every single note would be. And I actually have a sort of like hack to figure this out if you're not very good at theory and scales and all that stuff. Okay, for those of you who have Guitar Pro, which is like a tab editing software for a guitarist, here's my original riff that I wrote for this track. So I'm going to duplicate that track, so there's just two guitars playing the same thing. On the duplicate guitar part, I'm going to take every single note and pitch them up 3 frets, 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to listen to it. Okay, now hold on. Let me cook. You're going to take all the bass notes and you're going to move them back down those 3 steps. So this bass note's the 6th fret. This bass note's going to stay on the 10th fret, 13th fret, 8th fret, 6th fret. Okay, now let's listen to it. Okay, still quite not there yet. This is going to take practice and a good ear to get this down, but what I want you to do is we're going to slow it down 50%. And anytime you hear a weird note in the new guitar part, you're going to pitch it up just 1 more semitone. So this first note sounds weird. Second note sounds good. That note sounds weird. That note sounds weird. Good. Weird. 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 And then we have next measure. Okay, that note's weird. That note's weird. That note's good. This one's weird. So I'm going to play it, and anytime I hear a weird note, I'm just going to bump it up 1 step. So as long as we did that right, we can take it off 50%, go to full speed, and then we'll have a good harmony. There you have it. This is how I make all my guitar riffs, but like in my head, I'm doing this math on the guitar using scales and shapes that I'm already familiar with, but this is like the math behind it, I guess. It's just going up 1/3 in the scale. Then once we have that riff written, then we're gonna just record the part that we just wrote. Now, it probably won't be possible to play so sort of punched in rather than one seamless take. New take, new take, new take, new take, new take, new take. Because it's actually not possible to play the harmonies, at least in order to maintain the same articulations. And then put that over your beat. Just a little bonus step is I'm going to add some sound effects and some other atmospheric sounds to fill it out. So I have these impact sounds that I got from a Kingdom Hearts sample pack. I have a little atmosphere, and then of course you need some bass, so I put a re-space just following the bass notes of the guitar riff. So after all of those parts are said and done, I'm going to put up some vocals, and we're going to have this.